Hi, welcome to my channel, Reading with Reese's. My name is Jennifer. So today I wanted to go over my favorite booktubers that I watch all the time and, just give them a shout out because I love watching their channels, and I'll post the links to their channels in the show notes below. The first booktuber I want to recommend is Chelsea over at the Reading Outlaw. So she reads really widely, a lot of graphic novels and some nonfiction. One of her goals for this year is to start reading more romance, which I'm excited about because I'd love to switch recommendations back and forth. Chelsea, let me know. I really would love to give you some recommendations because I read pretty heavily in the romance genre, so I'd love to have a conversation with you. The second booktuber that I'd like to recommend is Olive over at abookolive, which I absolutely love the pun that is her channel name, and she reads a lot of nonfiction, and she's actually one of the purveyors over the nonfiction November month book tag. We mesh really heavily on nonfiction. I've gotten some great recommendations from her, and I've found that on some of the things that I've read that she's just now reading, she really loves the same books that I do. So I really enjoy her channel. And one of the things that sets her apart is she is really into Russian history and the Russian language. And her goals for this year is to become more widely read in Russian classic literature. So I'm really excited to kind of watch her journey with reading more widely in a category that she wants to learn more about and be more up on. So I would definitely head over to her channel if you want to get great nonfiction recommendations. The third booktuber that I'd like to recommend is Amanda over at Amanda Center. So she reads a lot of classics, reads, middle grade. I just thought she's very quirky, and I love that she, at the end of her videos, she'll, tell you that you're a whimsical unicorn or something, and it always just makes me laugh, and I really love watching her videos. She's obsessed with mermaids, and I saw this book on her channel, Celtic Tales, and I bought it because she had recommended it and had hauled it, and I thought it looked really interesting. The next booktuber that I would like to recommend is Katie over at Katie Loves to Read. So one of the nice things that I think she does is she listens to audiobooks, and she has started doing reviews of audiobooks, and I think that is just a really cool thing that you don't necessarily see too much here on BookTube, and talking more about format and narrators and everything, and how it holds your attention, and because the experience can be very different between reading on the page or even in an ebook to listening to it. And personally, I don't care for listening to fiction on audio. I really only listen to nonfiction because I find that my brain just wanders, and I feel like if I'm following a narrative, I'm going to miss something, whereas if I'm listening to nonfiction, I can kind of, if I miss something, it's not the end of the world. So she also reads a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. And she really loves anything to do with like gymnastics and that sort of thing. So if you're really into those type of novels, I would recommend checking her channel out. The next booktuber that I'd like to recommend is Joss over at squibblesreads. She reads really widely and diversely, and her channel is great for, diverse reads recommendations. She's always just so, upbeat and peppy, and very excited to talk about the books that excite her. I really, found her video explaining her rating system really interesting because I don't think I tend to, I rate things on Goodreads, and one of the things that I started doing after I watched her video on rating, and she said sometimes that she'll go back and change the rating that she gave a book based on, does she keep thinking about it? Does it, stay with her? And I found that to be a really interesting subset into, how to rate a book, and I've started actually incorporating that in my rating system as well, even though I don't do anything nearly as precise as she does. And I'll post that specific video in show notes below because I found it really interesting and fascinating. The next booktuber I'd like to recommend is Mercy over at Mercy's Bookish Musings, and she reads so many books, and I just really like hearing, her reviews. And one thing I really like, that I think one of her goals for this next year is she did a conservation degree, and I think she wants to start reading things that, more nonfiction that, aligns with kind of her background. And I'm interested to see some of the nonfiction that she picks up this year, because I kind of like reading about nature and animals and everything. And, that's one of the things I gravitate towards myself in nonfiction. She also reads some poetry. I don't think she reads a lot of sci-fi or fantasy, really. She's more literary fiction, but her reviews are just, I always trust her reviews, and I've gotten a lot of good recommendations from her. The next booktuber I'd like to talk about is Elizabeth over at Books and Pieces. So she reads mainly sci-fi and fantasy, and some YA, mixed between YA and adult, which I'm not, I can sometimes gravitate towards the sci-fi and fantasy YA, so I get a lot of, when I read YA, that's more what I'm likely to go for. So I like hearing, her opinions about that. I've gotten some really great recommendations from her, and she's just so, I just love how upbeat she is, and she's funny, and, I've just really enjoy her channel. Anyway, I hope that you will go and check out all of the booktube channels that I've mentioned. Again, the links are in the show notes below. I'm really excited to have you go check them out, because I've gotten a lot of great book recommendations from each of these ladies, and they are just a joy to watch, and I really enjoy just hearing their in-depth reviews. And I've picked up a ton of books based on their, what they are reading or what they're hauling, and so I highly recommend that you go check them out. And I will see you on Sunday. I hope you're having a good week, and I hope the rest of your week is great. All right, bye.